we are strong individual players, but in the game, it's just really chaotic. There's a lot of communication, a lot of chaos, and we're not fully on the same page yet. I think that's because we all kind of know how we want to play the game, but then there's so many voices. So I think right now we just need to like figure out how we play the best as a team and united. But obviously, winning in the end made it bittersweet and was good. A lot of fans, and I can understand all the viewers like saying like, "Oh man, like TSM seems really bad now." I can totally understand that. But I know from experience, even last year when I was in FlyQuest, everyone said we're not even a playoffs team, and we made back-to-back finals. And I think we're kind of in a similar situation where right now we're having a rough start, and it's like not looking too shiny since we don't have the synergy going yet. But I really know that all my teammates are really strong individual players, and I think we can make it up all the way if we keep improving and keep growing.
Hey LCS fans, I'm Pastry, that's Crumbs, and you just heard from the TSM mid laner PoE on his thoughts going into the next few weeks. Certainly has been a rough ride for this kind of new TSM roster.
It really has been, but I like that PoE is being very candid about how he feels about TSM. Individually, these players should be a lot better than their record is, and while it has looked like the whole TSM team is on fire, I'm not calling it quits just yet. I think TSM has a lot of talent on this roster, and they should be able to pick up together, like PoE has said. On previous rosters, when the firepower is there, it might take some time, but they usually ramps up towards the later half. And he hasn't come out and said this on teams that haven't been this strong, so I'm going to give PoE the benefit of the doubt here.
I mean, Power of Evil has also, since coming to the LCS, like, not only just individually been very good, but like as he's moved teams quite a lot as a player already in North America. He has just continued to like find ways to make teams better, improve himself and the people around him. So, I mean, again, with pickups like Power of Evil, and especially with someone like Sword Art, everyone expects TSM, you know, to hit the ceiling that those players command. And they're getting there, but I think it's a lot slower than definitely the fans want, and I think likely the TSM themselves want, because this split is not very long, Crumbs. Only 6 weeks, and this is week 2, so TSM don't have a lot of wiggle room before playoffs.
Yeah, so I'm saying I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. It's right here, right? Like, this is the one game. Any more losses are not acceptable because it's against Golden Guardians, a roster that is supposed to be development as a team, really not spend nearly as much as TSM has for this split. So TSM needs to come up with a good win and use Golden Guardians as a springboard to get themselves back to the top of the standings where they see themselves. Whereas Golden Guardians, well, if they can just beat TSM, then that's very funny and also great for them because they shouldn't have done that.
I mean, yeah, Golden Guardians, I think we're starting to see already the potential of this team. I think Iconic actually has been kind of a superstar for a player that I knew certainly the least about of any player starting in the LCS in 2021. He's been very impressive, and I think, again, themselves being candid about this development roster, about like they are trying to grow talent, and a lot of people who have been around the NA scene for a while, especially watching its lower levels of play, know a lot of these players. Iconic was not one of them, though, and that KDA and KP kind of speak for themselves.
That Iconic is looking good on Golden Guardians is no small feat. Try and look good as a jungler on the team where your lanes are struggling, and it is very difficult because the enemy team just starts taking all your camps. You have very low stats, whether it's with the jungle camps, kill participation, everything goes down the drain when your lanes are struggling. So Iconic is doing a really good job with what he's given, and it's an exciting prospect to see what happens when Golden Guardians gets it together, or if Iconic ends up finding another home. It's exciting to see that NA talent that people have not heard of are performing well.
It's funny, these are kind of like two opposite teams in a way who are both need to be on the same trajectory, right? They're both developing to their ceiling, right? And for TSM, that ceiling, the expectation is very high. For Golden Guardians, it's a little bit more of a question mark, but I think after seeing what Golden Guardians did with their team last year, seeing already the blueprint of this team about how they want to be successful, replicating their things that 2020 Golden Guardians did, you can already see what they're trying to put together. Now, again, the split is short, so they don't have that much time to figure it all out, but like you said, a win here against TSM is always a boon, even if TSM are looking weaker than other years, and TSM definitely need to put together the win here if they want to show that they have been building more communication, more synergy, and more cohesion throughout the split. All right, bans are done. Twisted Fate, Talia, Camille, Kai'Sa, Renekton, and Udyr are the first 6, so Olaf's going to be the first pick for Speaker.
Okay, I mean, this is 11-3, so it is the nerfed Olaf, and Iconic could always go ahead and take something like the Hecarim here. Lilia is fine here. You can dance around the Olaf, although you cannot pick him. So curious to see what the answer. They should obviously take the jungle away, and a good deny out of PoE. This is Golden Guardians, having seen how many games TSM struggles with the Azir pick, whether it's having to pick it themselves early so that it doesn't get denied, or having a really lackluster answer with the Corki against it. So taking away the Azir, pairing it with the Graves, already having a really strong mid 2v2 and a fantastic late game. If they get to late game, it's going to be really difficult to deal with Azir through a smoke screen.
Also an ultra comfortable champion for Blaze Olive. If you followed his actually fairly long career in Academy, this is, I think, easily his most played champion. Certainly one of the ones he's looked best on when he did win a championship on TSM Academy. Now he's playing against his old organization, which is always fun, but Syndra going to be the answer here for PoE. Certainly a matchup that they would both be very, very, very familiar with.
Yeah, Syndra against Azir, just classic mid setup. It's going to be really dangerous with the Olaf being able to just run down the Azir. So if he gets stunned by Syndra, then the Olaf ultimate will allow him to overcome the Emperor's Divide, and it's a really easy pickup there. So it's all as long as the Blaze Olive is not in stun range, though, the mid matchup should just be a big farm fest. And curious now to see what TSM can do with Huni on this Gragas, because Huni has not been playing these champions that win lane. He's been playing so much for utility, whether it's the Gangplanks or even the Lulus. The Gangplank focusing a lot more on the global aspect, not on the lane dominance. And so Gragas here, again, more on team fight, and Niles has been getting picked on, so I don't think they're going to get a lot of gold from Golden Guardians this game.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting midway point for Niles in his champion pool. Obviously known for things like Jace, things like Kled, things like Camille. Wants to be very aggressive in lane. He has played tanks every now and then, but certainly I think he's most comfortable on more carries, and he is the kind of player that I think will refuse to take any matchup or he isn't able to dominate the 1v1. So Niles certainly very good in a lot of isolated situations, but is maybe a bit better on the team play side, right? Because you can commit your ultimate, you can actually be kind of a front loner while still being, a 1v1 side lane threat, even if it's not the same level as like a Jace or an Aurelia or something like that.
Yeah, and really interesting here that the Seraphine that has been so important for the beginning of this 11.3 patch is now all the way in the second phase of picks and bans. I think this tells me that the teams just have higher priorities than the Seraphine. Maybe not as practiced at it, especially when it comes to maybe playing an unorthodox bottom lane. So if it's going to be very obvious where the Seraphine is going, you're not getting value from the flex pick. And so the teams are just saying, we're both struggling with finding our identities, so let's just play comfort and move away from what is just meta and very strong right now, and fear looking like a fool because we're not comfortable with these picks.
Well, I will say Senna has definitely been rising in power. I mean, I think she's already extremely powerful, but we've seen a couple Sennas today. They both won for what it's worth, so very small sample size. But I think a champion that is very overbearing if she gets any sort of lead, whether it's farming or the fasting center, which I think is maybe becoming more of the popular style. So 6A certainly threatening the almost infinite scaling power of Senna, but Lost actually going to go back to Ezreal, not a pick we see all that often, but I believe did receive a very small buff recently, and sort out what's he going to settle on. Looks at Yuumi, but Bard seems a bit more appropriate.
Ooh, yeah, Bard. So I think when you see TSM, when they have Swordar, a player that loves to shock call, a big leader, you start to see that TSM is going to be favoring these engaged champions way more than the Enchanters. So a Bard is a pick that fits right in the middle, both sustaining in the lane and also being able to set up your team in the team fight. Although what's very interesting to me, though, Pastry, is that TSM have been crazy discoordinated for the beginning of the tournament. These two champions, Gragas and Bard, have the most potential for fumbling a fight for your own team. So I need to see a very different TSM if they're going to be playing these kinds of champions. Otherwise, you could just see huge flops from them.
Yeah, it's always volatile thing giving big playmaking spells when your team is needing to play maybe a bit more simply, a bit more together, and is still building up the teamwork and cohesion. So I'll call it a risk, but Sword very competent on the Bard. I think Huni is weirdly evolved into a tank player. Never in my life did I think that Huni and Impact would converge on champion pools, but that kind of feels like the direction we're heading these days, at least with how Huni's been playing early on TSM. But last pick there was Thresh, which feels more like a farming center, and Newbie's going to be playing more of a classical support. But again, I still think as long as you collect souls and get gold, center's good. So not too worried there for Zixay, even if he is taking not the fasting center this time.
Yeah, Senna is just always relevant globally as well. So it's the trend that Golden Guardians continues to try to play, whether it's Twisted Fate, Gangplank, and now the Senna, wherever they can get tools that affect cross-map plays, they're picking them, and it's really allowing them to come together and find synergy when the players are new to both the LCS and playing as a team.
Yep, certainly a lot of comfort here as well on, I think, both sides, but certainly the Golden Guardian side. So we'll see if Iconic can indeed get ahead of Speaker's Olaf, who has Ghost this time around. Not something we see all that often actually these days, but obviously very powerful and significantly lower cooldown than Flash if you're trying to get stuff done early and often on Olaf.
So might want to see him just use that liberally. If he can start to trade Ghost for flashes, that's when you start to get a lot more value for it. So run straight to a lane, gank it with your Ghost, get a flash, and then you can return with Ghost while they still don't have that summoner up. So it's a possibility, although nowadays the jungle's just so often relegated to power farming the camps that are constantly spawning, that making value out of those ganks at the perfect timing without missing on jungle camps is very difficult.
Certainly is, as teams are to spread out very defensively here. It does seem like junglers will be starting on the top side of the rift, but can always move down. But it's just a couple wards, basically like facing each other in that top side river there for TSM and Golden Guardians, guarding the river on the TSM side and the back of the red buff there for Golden Guardians. But it looks like now the jungler is going to get much of a leash. I think Huni is going to help out Speaker, which is very generous, but other than that, nothing to really worry about. And Niall's kind of as expected. He's already forward up in the brush, hoping that Gragas walks in the lane early.
But that's exciting, though, not getting a leash. And although Huni did use mana, and so that should be the giveaway for Golden Guardians, that Speaker is in the top side. So if they know that the Olaf will be pathing to the bot side, looking for action in the bot lane, then we can start to see what Iconic will do with his pathing, though. Because otherwise, we're going to end up with fights over the bot lane Scuttle Crab, which are always exciting to see, because the bot laners of Thresh and Bard are super important for these early roams.
Yeah, certainly can be adding a lot of utility, even Senna. Also very significant, especially if she's got that root leveled up. So going to be battling for the wave here in the 2v2 as expected. Lost certainly has had a rough, I guess call it, re-entrance into the LCS, despite being around NA for a very long time, actually. He was the first Oceanic player to make his way to North America and try his hand competing here. And always been very talented, been very good in Academy, especially last year, alongside Treats. But I think, again, kind of the theme for TSM has been learning to fit all these pieces together when really no one's ever played together before. In fact, no one on this team has ever played with each other before, I guess with the exception of Lost and Speaker. You've likely played in Academy. So we'll see. Ezreal's certainly a pick that you can make work of and is pretty self-reliant. As Niles on the top side is getting the wave pushed in. Ahead right now, but Huni should be able to catch all these waves, and looks like Niles is going to go back. We see this a lot now in top lane, where every top laner wants to get aggressive early, but pretty much have to back on that third wave here because you don't want to get killed by the enemy jungler. Nice hook by Newbie into the Flay. Root lands as well there for Stixxay, so a big chunk of change on to Sword Art.
Okay, but TSM have a TP on the AD, so they're not really interested in taking any of these trades. As long as they get a little bit of harassment, they are happy here, but it is also a Senna with the heal, so now you got a 3-on-3. Sword Art hits level 3 now, though, but they have to respect that. So did Stixxay and Newbie. So they back off, and that early fight that we predicted that would happen in the bot lane skirmish goes the way of Golden Guardians because the bot lane has priority.
Yeah, Iconic is going to get the crab as a result. He was a level down up against Speaker, but is now going to ding level 4. So Speaker a bit faster through some more camps there, but didn't matter for Iconic in the potential 3v3 because it didn't happen. Speaker is going to run to the top side and take that crab instead. Iconic's going to go ahead and help out his mid laner, getting the wave pushed in, but is not going to be able to get to this crab by the looks of things. In fact, he's not even going to go and contest it. Iconic's actually just going to take a recall.
Oh, I love it. I always keep my eye on the minimap here when these Scuttle Crab fights are happening. And so when Iconic goes straight through the mid lane, hoping to maybe double Crab Speaker, the supports of Newbie and Sword Art actually are following through the river at the same time. So if any altercation were to happen in the top side, supports would have been ready to fight and support their junglers out. So very nice to see that the supports are very ready to take these fights. Even though the score is still 0-0, everybody's looking and waiting for the opportunity to get the good fight.
Yep, Stixxay following out nicely though. Unlike the other center games we've seen today, Marksman CS is going to matter head-to-head this time around, so Stixxay actually almost 2 waves ahead of Lost right now, who's picking up a couple under his tower, but not all that many. Niles almost got the Naba back to full. is doing a good job of staying up in XP just slightly, staying up in farm also just slightly. But Huni, again, it is just so fascinating to me that Huni is almost a completely different player. Like, he is just playing weak side, he's chilling out, he's picking tanks and getting pushed in by the new guy, which is the thing Huni was known for when he came onto the scene.
This is why I thought that Golden Guardians were actually going to have a good matchup against TSM, because every time that Golden Guardians has been getting crushed, it's because they camp Niles and they get so much gold from the top side. But because Huni has this new look on TSM, which is tank, utility role, not at all about laning, then Niles isn't getting exploited. He's able to farm and be super aggressive in this lane, and now there is a point where Golden Guardians can hit the mid game evenly, and that's not a place where they have been particularly bad. They have had some games where it looks like they're not doing anything, but in other games, Newbie's just on point, getting some really good engages. So to try to put that as the place where TSM wants to fight against Golden Guardian, even in the mid game as decision making, just doesn't strike me as something that a TSM that spent so much this season would go as their game plan against Golden Guardians.
All right, well, Sorda is clearing up vision here in the river because there is a Cloud Dragon that teams want to look at. 6 minutes, that's perfectly fine time for a Cloud Drake, especially for someone like Olaf. Graves also not bad. Good hook though. Lands in onto Sorda. He's going to get flayed, and the magical journey will take him over the wall. And no one from Golden Guardians follows, probably correctly, but it's always nice to see them click through the portal and just, you know, take a gamble.
Yeah, Sword Art still had exhaust though, so while it looked like maybe if Iconic used his Q a little differently, he could have gotten more damage, still would have been very risky to overcommit for that, and you're happy that you get the Dragon for this. This is free. TSM isn't getting anything on the top side. The Olaf is farming, he's not getting blue buff, he's not getting Herald, so Golden Guardians just waits in a brush and gets really paid for that. And if they can start stacking these dragons early, the team with Azir and Senna is always going to love having Soul as a win condition.
Yeah, like you said, always look for the supports when there's any early game play happening here. Of course, look for the junglers too, but Iconic was already down there alongside Newbie. Golden Guardians get their little bit of damage on the Sword Art, force the flash, and get the Dragon as a result of their play. So nice little early game there. Gold is technically ahead for Golden Guardians, but it's not a significant lead, as Power of Evil is going to go ahead and grab his first donation of the blue buff. Speaker going to start that up very nicely. Power of Evil going to buy a bit of extra time for his jungler by picking up the buff himself and carrying it back over to the wall. But other than that, it's pretty chilled out, farm pretty even top. Stixxay is pretty significantly ahead in the 2v2 right now, even though the wave is pushing and it's pretty big towards TSM. But Lost avoiding the hook is going to go a long way to keeping the health bars topped up here, because the trading has certainly been in favor of the Senna and the Thresh early on.
I've been very happy with Stixxay on Golden Guardians because
he's been great.
When his split on COG was abysmal. It felt like so many of us were looking at Stixxay, but before that, there is a fight.
Lost is baiting, and Speaker's going to run in there. There's the Ghost. Level 6 already, going to force Newbie to flash. Stixxay going to grab the Lantern and be A-OK. In fact, turns it back around, maybe going to look for the W, but it does not connect on the Ezreal. But to your point, Crumbs, I agree. I think Stixxay, you know, long-time CLG player, won a championship on that team, looked great on MSI in that CLG run, but hasn't been the same for this guy for a while. And on Golden Gardens, he does feel somewhat renewed as a player.
Yes, it's exactly. That's the story I want to tell. It's that players can look entirely different when they're on different teams, whether it's junglers that get really affected by the lanes or even just an AD. The pairing that you have with your support makes such a world of difference. So seeing Stixxay, who looked like one of the bottom ADs, now consistently a solid bright spot for Golden Guardians is really good to see, because now we really are starting to understand, well, how these veterans can go through ups and downs in their careers, and how maybe so many of these ups and downs aren't entirely their own play, but rather the teams they find themselves in.
It's funny, like, he's really gone through like the whole cycle now, right? He started as a completely new player that no one knew, won a trophy, looking really good, kind of like maybe the next, you know, any talent in AD, kind of went through a rough patch of not playing nearly as well, and now he's on the development team as the veteran, as Iconic ganking down to the bottom side, but Sword Art's going to dodge it. Lost just going to throw some poke out, and everything's going to dissipate here. So no action yet, because Iconic is being very persistent in this area of the map.
Oh yeah, and I mean, we got a little golf League of Legends here, because Olaf is doing the Rift Herald in the tops, and no one is here. I mean, if Niles is using the ultimate to just clear the wave, you know there's absolutely no action happening. If both teams want to scale, I am loving my chances as Golden Guardians, because that's the team that I was most afraid of if they were to miss manage a laning phase or start getting dove, but TSM without the coordination to make dives, they're not getting anything.
Nice attempt there, flashes in, but doesn't quite connect because Niles flashes out. Rift Herald is still on the table, Iconic. Maybe fancying a smite steal, but lost with a big true shot barrage. Does get the damage down. The eye goes over, but I believe TSM did get it. Indeed, Huni will pick it up. Newbie gonna look for that Q, but it's not gonna land as Tempered Fate did lock up a Blaze Olive, but only temporarily. So Golden Guardians do actually poke in to try and look for a fight, but nobody dying in the exchange. Still 10 minutes through and no first blood.
I think both teams saw that they could have easily lost the game right there. They haven't done anything this game. It's 10 minutes in, it's only 700 gold up, negligible on the side of Golden Guardians. So seeing a 5v5 happen right there at the Rift Herald, both teams are thinking, if we commit to this right now, we could just lose the game. There's enough committed from both sides that we could just lose right now. Are we sure we want to put our game on the line when we have these kinds of compositions with an Azir and a Senna? So they rightfully back off and don't take a big fight. So I like that the teams were quite hesitant in taking that fight, and that's why TSM was looking for one, because they, on the flip side, who struggle to get these fights, are just looking for anything they can get.
Yeah, good exchange there in top lane there. I mean, like you said, like we just saw Niles use his ulti on the wave, and then they went for a 5v5, and I was like, I don't know how I feel about that one, but Golden Guardians do disengage, just poking in, trying to see if they can maybe get something, which is always nice when you have a Thresh. The bottom side still, junglers spending quite a lot of their time here, just making sure they can control this side of the river. 30 seconds until that next dragon is up. It will be Infernal, which means that that won't be the soul for this game, which is often a point of sadness. It should be just fine here again. Stixxay farming up a storm. Got to be pretty close to that mythic.
How the junglers keep ending down into the bot side, just because their camps are spawning in that bot side at the same time. The Gromp and the Krug simultaneously spawning for the junglers, so they keeps bringing them down here. And Dragon is spawning, and this is a really bad reset on TSM side. Swordar is missing, and it's only Olaf on the map, so he won't be able to defend anything. Iconic trying to rush this out. They are in sight with that scuttle, so Golden Guardians is doing this right in the face of TSM. Yeah,
nice work from Newbie though. Just checking the brush, being like, hey, there could be someone in there, and indeed they do find the Olaf. Swordar here ready with the ulti though. Stixxay gonna try and cut him up, but he misses that skill shot. Swordar also not able to land that slow, so TSM are on the objective. Who's gonna collect it? Iconic low. The dragon does go over to a Blaze Olive, but Golden Guardians now lost in the fight as Iconic locked up there by the Bard ulti. Does flash over the wall. Niles almost about to go mega as the route into the Dragon Pit is leaving Huni left for dead. It's Newbie that finds the play just barely over the wall, and that's first blood to a Blaze Olive. Second blood over to Niles as Golden Guardians maybe find a third as Newbie grabs a massive hook of Blaze Olive by the double kills. He solos out the TSM jungler, and that's 4 straight for the Golden Guardians.
Oh, baby. Golden Guardians is taking down TSM. 3,000 gold up. That is a huge play out of them. And they even get the dragon. It really could not have been better. I don't think I mean, let's take a look first, because a big thing here was that Stixxay is entirely by himself, free firing. It's a big fat shield, and then the Bard ultimate combo with Gragas doesn't do a whole lot. Azir with the steal does so much to zone when PoE is inside the pit. What can PoE do? He cannot get out of here, so he has to flash away, and the rest of the team just gets routed. And a great hook there out of Newbie. It looks like that hook was possibly blind. I'm not sure if that control ward was in that brush or not, but regardless, great hook to follow up.
Well, the man's always smiling. Niles continues to do so after that exchange there, but a very, very good-looking play for Golden Guardians. That fight basically split into 2 or 3 different pieces, and Golden Guardians won every single piece of that fight as Niles now. This is a bit more what he's used to, Crumbs. 4 people in the top lane there. He's going to run back towards his tier 2.
That's more like it. He needs the emote. We got to see the little marshmallow or the camp emote. That's more of the Niles way, making sure that you know that you're not camping him without him at least having some style doing it. And it's a lot of members committed on the top side, so they're going to use this Rift Herald to try to erase Golden Guardians, and they will be winning this. I need to see what the GG response is to this, because they could lose 2 if Niles is bold enough to defend in their face.
Yeah, Niles does want to kill this Rift Herald, but it's still 2 up here for TSM alongside the Herald, so Herald's just going to get that second charge in. Oh, Huni making the play. Niles now going to get knocked back in. This time Huni finds a combo, but Niles hops over the head of Huni. He's going to maybe be okay, but Lost is absolutely going to seal that kill. Does have to flash. so gets the auto down, but that could be 2 towers as well. Very well played by TSM in the 2v1 dive. But here's a Blaze Olive. He's 2-0 already. He's got the Leandri's finish, Crumbs.
Don't do it.
But he's in a 1v4. I take everything I said back. All the soldiers up, and that is a disaster. Tempered Fate. Good ulti actually scoops him back in, but it's going to be a shutdown. Huni does not die. The wrong part of the center ulti is there. Actually, the burn was enough to get the trade kill. So 1-1 at the end of it all, but a Blaze Olive throwing away a bit of bounty gold.
Okay, Golden Guardians needs to see these plays. They happen so often against Niles in the top side where TSM is clearly looking for more into the top side, and either Niles is not respecting it or Golden Guardians is not doing something about it quickly enough, because losing a Blaze Olive there, he was 2-0. He was very powerful. You needed to have him continuing to farm, and that's a big loss there, losing that mid laner right there when you knew that TSM had multiple members top side.
Yeah, just a little bit discoordinated. Sure, we'll go with it there. As Niles will watch this dive again. Just so well set up by Huni.
When he's mini and there's a tank and an AD, TSM is going to try this. There's really no reason why they shouldn't. They know that the AD and support on the enemy team are in the bot side, and then Huni's staying here. He's just being very cheeky here. He actually did not need to do anything whatsoever, so he's giving a little bit more gold over to the side of Golden Guardians, making sure that they don't lose so much. I mean, you see it, and it looks so unnecessary. He could have even gotten the assist from the initial barrel, so there is no need to slam.
Yeah, just barely got it as well. I believe Leandri's plus Corrupting Potion was the only reason the Blaze Olive got that kill, as TSM are under the Rift Turret here. Going to grab the second one of the game. So Golden Guardians are up 2-0, and Dragons will be excellent if they can grab that third and get themselves the Ocean Soul point nice and early. But if not, TSM have basically equalized that gold lead. They lost to Team Pipe 4-0, and they've taken a couple kills and 2 towers off the back of that here to shrink that gold lead to about 1,300 still ahead for Golden Guardians. So good work for TSM on the other side of it all to find the plays, even though Golden Guardians perhaps walked into them. But Blaze Olive is getting things done down here in the bottom side. Does at least make sure that tower goes down and is going to force Huni to react. I think if Golden Guardians are looking to play around anyone in this mid game, it does have to be their mid laner.
Yeah, he has the strongest items right now, although the Senna is slowly getting there. You want to start playing around her when he has that Rage Blade. And yeah, I think credit goes to TSM for looking for that play. A little less against Golden Guardians for going for the response right afterwards. But the fact that TSM has only really looked for one play thus far is looking really good here for GG. Niles is about to hit Mega, and with Flash available, a big ultimate is in the making.
Yeah, I actually like what Stixxay has been doing, like hiding people in the Black Mist, trying to see if they can pop up maybe like a Thresh, as Newbie is actually going to be hunting here. TSM going to aggro this Drake. They know they need to take this. Pretty important to make sure the enemy team doesn't go up 3-0, but Niles there ready for the play! Finds the wall follow-up, and there's the ulti out. Wow. The hook is good, and Lost just gets obliterated by Golden Guardians. Now Iconic over the side is trying to finish off the Drake. It's 5v4 for Golden Guardians, and that's enough. TSM are out of there.
I cannot imagine a more picture-perfect play where the engage goes in and then it parts the seas. Hook hits right on the AD carry. It really could not have been more perfect that you picked Lost out of thin air, out of that. And Niles with a big flash, I mean, it doesn't get multiple members, but you do get the flash from PoE. So now you have another target that you can go after next time. So whether it's a Blaze Olive or Niles again, they have somebody that they can go after. So let's take a look at him going in. Flashes in, right, gets another one, but now watch Newbie flash hooks, comboing Niles' stun that he followed up with his own ultimate, which was just giant. And then the Bard ultimate there, it just kind of helps them out, allows Golden Guardians to reset and get their bearings about and continue the fight.
Yeah, really sick combination there by Golden Guardians. It almost looks like Niles like shoving them away, which is obviously not what you want, but picking off an Ezreal like that, even though Lost didn't have Flash, very impressive setup there between the top lane and the support. Newbie's really been on point all game long with this Thresh, which isn't much of a surprise, to be perfectly honest, as a Blaze Olive continuing to find pressure in these side lanes. Lost and Power of Evil will push down the bottom outer. Blaze Olive is going to answer here in the top side. So Golden Guardians, sorry, still kind of playing catch-up on structures here, but winning the fight, certainly finding those picks and all 5v5s, and given that they're up on a very quick soul point here for the Ocean, and Stixxay is starting to unleash the Kraken on Huni there in mid lane. Although TSM pushing through once again, Niles cannot defend this on his own, so Golden Guardians a bit slow to respond to these pushes.
Yeah, they are just pushing the top side here in the tier 2. I don't think they're going to be able to get anything for it, not even the mid-tier 1. So just a nice little move out of TSM, being able to find the turret without losing much. The fact that they didn't lose a whole lot is what I think makes that play worthwhile, because so often going forward at tier 2 doesn't really net you enough on the map, whether it's vision control or gold. There's no plates on it, so it's not like it's as cash flow centric as the first 3 turrets. So I think that TSM just got away with a nice little turret that could help them out if they want to take a fight in this next dragon and get some deep vision on the blue side.
All right, well, taking a look at the marksman, actually. Oh, they've both got their 2 items completed. Perfect segue there, as 6A did go for the Kraken Slayer. As expected, Rageblade are now done, as the Rage Knife has been evolved. But Essence Reaver Dustblade here for Lost, which, as far as I'm aware, is the wave for current Ezreal builds, but certainly something haven't seen too often in the past, but has been a bit more popular recently, thanks again to Optimal Team out of stats for the info.
It's going to really hurt, right? The lethality is really going to sting on this Ezreal. There's no one building armor, and the Olaf being the other physical damage threat makes it so that no one really will build armor moving forward. It's just going to be AP, but a play onto a Blaze Olive. He has flash.
Yeah, pretty low though, has to get out, but the shield is not enough, just barely. I think the last sphere killed him as Niles now running in, but he's got no backup here. Was going to only be a 2v3 with just the Azir tower up, so Blazolov cannot save himself, Niles can't save his mid laner, and TSM get a very nice pick.
I think TSM found their spot right here. Keep coming back to this tier 2 tower. Clearly, Golden Guardians is not responding to this one very well. Maybe it's just the top side that Golden Guardians has a hard time with, but this is just another freebie on the side of TSM that slowly keeps the gold steady. Remember, about 10 minutes ago, it was Golden Guardians up about 3,000, that it hasn't grown and it's only yielded dragons and has in fact shrunk a little bit, is really good for TSM because they have been continuing to be assertive. That's what I'm looking out here, that TSM has not stopped looking for ways back, and Golden Guardians still really struggling with them finding the opportunities for them to really win the game. I think Dragon is what they're waiting for, but I need to see some more deliberate movement for setting up vision that will then set up a really good team fight.
TSM trying to kick Golden Guardians out of the Baron half of the map, and do so successfully. They'll grab that Scuttle Crab, as Huni is actually kind of cut off the entrance here for Niles to potentially move down and get vision for themselves. Golden Guardians, as you mentioned, do want to secure this next dragon. But TSM with full map control right now. In fact, they're already starting to...
Oh, baby.
Very cheeky.
Okay, there is one scrying orb on the side of Golden Guardians, and a Blaze Olive is in range. Oh, they don't know. They're really not thinking about it. It's only Huni, guys. Someone has to check. They see it now. It's too late, though.
5k, yeah. I think Baron's just dead. They're going to check way too late. The orb, I think, actually went down. Yeah, he did use it, but that's Baron gone. TSM sneak it at 22.5 minutes, and Golden Guardians is left thinking, hey, where'd the buff go?
Golden Guardians can still take a fight, though, because they now have the inside track on the Dragon. If they have the better positioning, they can still win out against a Baroned up TSM. Nara is mega and has flash again, but so do the carries on TSM.
I like Niles here, just kind of playing goalie, keeping them out. But TSM are going to move in there. Huni actually into the pit. Now going to get the initiation starter, finds 2 there, but Niles is going to counter-engage in. And now into the back of the pit goes Speaker, trying to kill off Iconic, but the shield boat's keeping him alive for so long as Blazolov takes down Huni. The Dragon goes over, but Huni steals it amongst the chaos, and Speaker is going to fall down. So Golden Guardians, they'll win the team fight 2-for-1, but they don't get the soul.
Oh boy, that is so messy. So many different fights were happening at the same time, but the Golden Guardians' focus looked like it should have been on the Dragon, because the Olaf went straight in by himself, but he went for a 1v1 against Graves. Nobody was there to follow up, despite Nar having done a good job zoning in and then jumping away, not putting himself in harm's way. So I like this initiation from Niles, right? Sees the carries. All right, should I jump in? No, flashing in, then jumping away. But then Olaf is here in the back, and there's nothing to help him out. There's no heals from Senna. There's no lanterns, no shields, no nothing. And you wonder if just a little bit of help would have gone to the Graves' way. You get the Dragon, and then you win the fight most certainly, because it's going to be an Ocean Soul on you.
Well, I'm not sure which junglers smited or if they both did, but the number I saw before Huni took it was 26, so very close to that Dragon going either way, but Huni does indeed grab the last hit. And Golden Guardian's going to have to wait another 4 minutes for that Ocean Soul to come back around. Meanwhile, TSM, we've got the Red Bull Baron buff in play. Minute 15 still to play with. did get mid out already, but haven't really pushed too much else out. They have, though, taken the gold lead, which is nice for them, up a couple hundred after Golden Guardians have held the lead for so long since winning that 4-0 team fight. But it does feel like the game is starting to slip away from GG here. TSM going to be on the offensive, of course, for the remainder of this Baron, but once the game resets and that Dragon respawns, and of course once the Baron comes back as well, I wonder if Golden Guardians can find like 1 or 2 steps sooner around these objectives, because they don't need much to open this game up, but it's kind of the same for TSM as well. So balanced pretty precariously, even though Golden Guardians should feel comfortable as the game goes later with the comp they've drafted.
They should, but it's not. They're not feeling comfortable being the first to make a play. Right now, with the Baron still on TSM, it's really difficult for them to go after anything, and they'll probably will lose 1 or 2 more turrets, and instead they're just going to use the rest of this to chase down Niles, who's sure to dead.
M-Tank is getting Huni in there, but Huni, Niles maybe can get out. He's going to have to hop out, but the Cask, I think, actually maybe helped him. Does get a bit of health back there, and now Golden Guardians looking for the counter plays. Power of Evil finds the stun, gets the kill with it as a result, and somehow Speaker lives through just about everything Golden Guardians had left to throw at them.
Ooh, really close. If you would have traded 1 for 1, it would have been really nice, although I think this is the end of the TSM play anyways, and so the loss of that fight will just lose them the rest of the jungle and some more control on this side. So Golden Guardians will have to fight for this again if they want to get Vision down before the 2 minutes timer on the Ocean Soul that they desperately want as a win condition here. So if they can make sure that they get a good 5v5 then this game is still within reach.
Yep, I think at this point can call the game basically even. Yes, TSM do have to fend off the Ocean Soul for the rest of the game, but at this point, Golden Guardians don't really have all that much space. They can collect some gold by taking towers, especially if they get something like a Baron. So they can retake the lead, but I think the same is true for TSM. If they get another Baron, I think they can push themselves far enough ahead that it's going to be tough for Golden Guardians to find a way back in. And plays like this are going to help Newbie getting trashed by that damage. My goodness. Duskblade, Essence Reaver, and a Tiamat on top as Lost just wipes out Newbie off the Rift.
Hey, should be good for that Ravenous Hydra next, and this is just a lot of damage out of this Ezra. You never saw the build before, so it's hard to know how much damage he does, but just know that it hurts just as it always has. So stay away from him, don't get comboed, and don't face check. They can still wave clear this, though, and they could even afford to lose the Dragon, so TSM should not really get anything here. Azir's wave clear is too good. Yeah, they should rightfully back off. Golden Guardians can stall this one out and just concede the Dragon and buy themselves more time for a better team fight.
Yeah, losing the tier 2 in mid certainly hurts. It's 6-2 up in towers right now for TSM, which is a massive lead, not just in the gold that the towers give you, but in the control and kind of safety they provide as well. TP there for Lost. He's getting the wave accompanied into bot lane, but they know that, so Golden Guardians can look to make a 5v4 play. Niles going to get stopped by PoE. Massive stun. Finds through for the disengage. And now Lost has joined the team. The True-Shot Barrage actually going to do some poke onto a Blazeolve, but not that much, as Golden Guardians still counter-pushing here in mid, trying to basically open up space for them to actually fight for this next Dragon.
Golden Guardians don't have any tools to check brushes without getting hurt. It's really annoying for them to walk up, so they need these hooks and Azir to be right up there to actually harass anybody. Otherwise, they just have to clear the wave and hope that somebody survives. And when Niles goes Mega, that should be their key. He still has Flash again, but PoE has his again. Let's see if he gets another good engage. He's been the important and main engage for Golden Guardians twice already.
Really nice there for Lost, just soloing the Drake while TSM are busy tying up Golden Guardians in mid. That will prompt them to go mid and at least try and open up the center of the map, which they will do. But TSM now on the offensive, ulti out of Slaughter almost clips them, but Huni finds Iconic there at the end of it all. But the Lantern actually going to save him. Stixxay now going to turn it back around, and he's unleashing hell onto Huni. Sword Art also in a little bit of trouble, but stun lands in onto Stixxay. The heal still coming out, but he does have a flash and will be forced to commit it. Lost again with the burst damage is going to force Stixxay to run back. So Golden Guardians, no one dies, but they're going to lose that exchange as TP's coming in for TSM.
It's not over yet.
Lines it up. Newbie going to get the flavor. Huni finds a double belly bop, and the ult from Stixxay is not going to save anyone as TSM finally in the extended play will get 2 clean ones.
Oh, and now they can go towards Baron, and it looks like that Baron power play never ended. They can just get it and continue the onslaught. And now the poke from the Ezreal is really going to get nasty because the push is now getting Baroned up again with less turrets to defend, with the Syndra that also is going to have a death cap. So it's getting really tricky for Golden Guardians. They hooked Gragas, but they even used everything on him, yet he still was able to survive. And here's where Iconic, I think you just have to flash. Even getting out of here is very lucky. I think if Huni had a better placement of his ultimate, he would have died right away. So the fact that he lives is just a big blessing. And then the TP is the icing on the cake here, because it's a really fat slam that gets 2 people. And when the Thresh is right next to the one that is hopefully getting lanterned out, that's a really nice feeling, because getting lanterned out of the target you're going after always sucks. So countering Thresh when you can do it is amazing.
I think that's just kind of indicative of kind of how the mid game's been going, though. The fact that that ward is even there for TSM, right, kind of shows how much control they've had over the top side of the map, kind of through this whole mid game. And without that ward, Huni cannot make that play, and TSM don't get this Baron. So that continued top side control, keeping that vision up, constantly punishing anyone overextended towards that top tier 2 has netted TSM the lead they have now, which is actually pretty significant. You know, 3,000-ish gold. And Golden Guardian's still fighting well. That's a good pluck on the sword up, but he is not going to live. I take it all back as the Blaze Olive is able to finish it off. Now 5v4 Golden Guardians need to get more off this play.
Yeah, that was really bad. That's Baron power play, and your Bard is right up there. You have Flash and Ultimate, and could have maybe gone for an inhibitor push on that one, but that pick could just stop the Baron power play that's still a minute 30 up. So by the time they reset, get back on the map, and knock all the way on Golden Guardians' door, I think the Baron's already gone. So one pick is all it took, I think, to stop TSM's push.
All right, well, that is going to buy the 2 minutes Golden Guardians need to once again be fighting for the Ocean Soul. TSM have shut them out twice now. Once just barely, and once with lost just soloing it as TSM continue their strong control. I mean, just kind of looking at the amount of blue wards on the map relative to red ones, as Niles is...
Here we go
the scene, the first, the second, third, and fourth crime. I guess we'll call it 5 there, as Niles is going to get a sphere dropped on his head. Huni's going to find the combination, and Speaker's going to collect the kill.
It's like, I don't know what's happening in this lane of plays. Like, why is it always here? And Golden Guardians members continue to flash. Like, this Baron should not have happened. This should not be a Baron push. This Baron is about to expire. It's only one more push, 25 seconds on it, but because Gnar is dead, the push is actually going to be fairly effective. But Blaze Olive is not here on time, so he doesn't have soldiers ready to go. And now TSM get a free inhibitor when it should have been another team fight at Dragon.
Yeah, and that's going to make fighting for this Dragon very, very challenging. As for 5 minutes, Super Minions will be pressuring the worst part of the map on the Golden Guardian side if they're trying to contest for this Dragon. So TSM quickly back. They actually take the last bit of their Baron buff and take the Empowered Recall, which is going to zoom them back over to the bottom half of the map. Golden Guardians know what's up. They have to fight for this next soul. It's kind of been their win condition since they took those first 2 and then 3 very quickly, but they've been kept away from that prize by TSM for far too long in their eyes. So Golden Guardians, once again, going to be grouping up, as Niles, with the TP, mind you, is going to be forced to deal with the supers in top lane. In fact, I just don't think Golden Guardians have enough map control to even contest for this Dragon.
They can still give this one up. It's third as well. TSM might be thinking of just going straight down the middle and looking for more. So if Golden Guardians doesn't want it, they don't need to take this one. And I think a big part of it is just they're not comfortable, clearly, with taking these fights. They're not getting a single engage on their own terms. It's only Niles that's thinking about looking. So if I'm Golden Guardians, I'm not Golden Guardians. I'm dead.
That wasn't even ult. I thought Power of Evil ulted. Didn't even need to. I think that was Ezreal plus the Syndra. Just the basic poke there as Niles is trying to dive into the backside, but Senna already dead as Speaker just dives out of the tower. Niles is, of course, going to die on the onslaught, as this looks like an ace here out of TSM. Iconic is going to get Huni. A Blaze Olive's going to die, and that's going to be your Bud Light ace. As the last one from GGS falls, and TSM are going to take a victory lap to the enemy Nexus.
Yep, they're going to go straight to the Nexus. They should end the game right here, and it's a really nice team fight out of them. They see the opportunity, instantly capitalize, and don't hesitate to seal this one. They want to be out of this one. It's 33 minutes in, so it's a good game time, but it didn't feel like it. So the faster they can be out of this one and thinking about the next game, the better for TSM.
All right, certainly some promise for Golden Guardians. The TSM perhaps getting more and more put together as they do take the victory over Golden Guardians. I think expected in a lot of ways here. Both teams definitely still developing as teams, but from very different situations. But the victory does indeed go to TSM off the back of some, dare I say it, very strong tank play from Huni, which again is not a sentence I feel particularly comfortable saying. but he certainly did a lot of work when it came to finding angles in fights.
He did well, and now I just wonder what happens when TSM faces off against one of these teams that actually is being assertive in the mid game, because this is the problem that we're seeing out of Golden Guardians that we saw at CLG, just not finding these mid game opportunities to group up and accelerate the gold leads that you've amassed in laning phase. So I felt like Golden Guardians came out with some good leads, some good TP plays that had a gold lead, but when it came to getting more from those, they had no idea what to do, and so TSM just needed to find a few plays, and it looked like Golden Guardians never even tried to contest them in them, so TSM, being assertive, took the game.
I also think just a good bounce-back game for Lost, who's certainly been as one of the newest, in fact, I mean, they're, in a lot of ways, they're the newest members to TSM. You could argue Lost is less new because he played on the Academy side, but regardless, one of the newer players to the LCS, certainly a player that I think has received quite a lot of criticism, perhaps not all of it deserved, but Ezreal, with kind of the new build that's hopping around these days, looking really nice alongside PoE as kind of the primary damage deal. So TSM, they'll take the victory, perhaps not the cleanest, but indeed they'll take the dub. After the break, though, we are going to be hearing from speaker Anna Tigris in the Verizon post-game interview, so don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to the LCS, everyone. We have another Verizon post-game interview with you, this time with Spica. Spica, first things first, before we get into some of the more overarching things with you and the rest of the team, I just want to get your personal opinion on that game, because following the victory against CLG, Lost had said that it felt more like relief than a win. So how would you describe this particular win?
Yeah, I mean, I think this game is really similar to the CLG game where, we made a lot of mistakes early and that, made the game really hard. But I think in the mid game, we play like a lot more cleaner and a lot more like as a group. And that's why I think this game felt a lot better than the CLG game.
And we do see that you are all trying to evolve as a team. Part of that being that we saw Huni going on these more tanky picks. What has that been like, trying to find other ways to incorporate the skills of all these very individually talented players?
Yeah, I think we just have a lot of different ways, or we have a lot of different ways we want to play the game. And I think it's just about finding the best way, for us as a team, 5 players playing together. And I think we're still trying to incorporate, what champ is the best for each player, like what roles you want to play on the team. So we're still like trying to figure everything out, trying different things. But I think today he like performed really well, so I'm happy.
And speaking of just individuals performing well, I'm so excited to get to speak to you today, because it's the first time that we're actually hearing from you on the broadcast since the start of the season. And it feels like not long ago that we were first witnessing you appearing on the LCS stage. And now you are positioned to be the veteran of TSM, this mainstay within the organization, a very consistent player that a lot of people are hype about. What has that been like for you? Kind of this very big transition of flipping the script and focusing on you and the strengths that you offer as a player.
I think on this team, we play very different from our previous teams. I think previous teams, a lot of my old teammates did like pick champs to enable me, but I think on this team I have to play like a different role, which so far I'm still like uncomfortable with, picking up like new champs. Last year, I think I said, my Olaf sucks, but I think Olaf is like a very important piece, in draft for our team. So I think, I'm just like trying new things, picking up new champs, so like everyone's more comfortable.
And with that, there is an interesting dynamic. You have to consider how the players feel with the coaches when having that comfort to try different picks. You have a unique position where you played so well alongside Bjergsen last year. Now he's in that coaching position. Having that experience on the Rift together, does that add at all what you were able to do when collaborating kind of as a squad and taking that insight from him as a coach?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think last year, Bjerg taught the whole team a lot about playing the game. He was the main shot caller in game, in the mid game. So I when he's transitioning to coaching, I agree with a lot of his ideas. So it just makes like working together a lot more smoother. And I think we're like learning really quickly as a team and just trying to incorporating his way of thinking.
From week to week, we get to see TSM falling more and more into that identity. Spica, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you for having me.
A second victory for TSM here to bring themselves into the standings that much more. Let's go ahead and continue to break down that game on the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you very much, the Tigress. 2-2 now for TSM on the year. But I think, like many of their games and their other victories so far, they're going to look at this one and say, this one could have gotten away from us, Mark, particularly, when you take into account how it all started. And Emily, I know that you have been harping on a few things specifically for TSM, chief of which is communication, what seems to be in-game and in-fight communication. And if we look early on in the game, that early advantage that Golden Guardians took, 4-0 around the Dragon, you're going to see some of that come through.
Yeah, so I'll just talk over this about what I mean when I say communication. And what I mean isn't even necessarily in this team fight they had bad communication. It's everyone being on the same page. And Spica just said this in their interview, right? Everyone being on the same page about how they want to play the game. I've known LPL teams where they don't speak the same language or they don't get along as people, and they are still able to pull out these 5v5 team fights because they have the same idea of how they want to play them. TSM does not seem to have that right now. And I think it is one of their greatest weaknesses. And you can see it in a lot of these fights when they are forced to fight other teams, because you will have different players doing different things and trying different things. And if they all had the same approach to the team fight, it would end up a lot better.
Yeah, and other than just the comms, like it would be really nice to have everyone on the same page, but it seeing that last fight where Gnar was running out of the Mega Gnar as they pulled the dragon, it makes you question their decision making because the Gnar bar is almost down. You would think that it's kind of obvious for everybody to say, okay, how about we just don't pull this dragon, wait out the Gnar bar, and then pull it. But instead, they pull it, and it's just a disaster. Niles forced it so hard with the flash, the E. He used his item forward and Ard. Like, he had to force that so hard to get the last little bit of his Mega Gnar out, and it still managed to work because TSM were just not patient enough.
Yeah, imagine if there was another 3 to 5 seconds of respect given to that Mega Gnar and letting it time out before the fight actually engages. But Mark, we talked about the comeback for TSM, their ways back in. It all came around this top lane.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that we're talking about them struggling with. Here's some of the things they did well. They started attacking Niles, and in particular, the rotations. Here, Ablaze Olive collapses, wanting to go top, but there were no wards left in his wake, so he has no idea that PoE and Sword Art are coming right behind him to finish him off and turn this actually into a 4v1. And so this is one of the issues that Golden Guardians kind of had throughout this game that really punished them, was their lack of topside vision control. And you have to give some credit to Sword Art using the kind of single global on the play and the roaming potential of the Bard to find these kills in the top lane multiple times over. And yeah, you can talk about how Golden Guardians' vision control was not great, which is definitely true. There's definitely a vision score gap, I think, a little bit this game. But at the very least, TSM identified, like, hey, Drake fights are not working for us right now. Where else can we get advantages? And they did use the map better.
Right, in essence, the same play happening, you know, not five minutes removed from each other. And so TSM taking advantages where they can get them. I failed to realize it in that first play, but Huni with the most Huni thing ever, going back in and then ends up dying when he doesn't.
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
Let's take a look at some Barons here.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked this Baron play. I know Mark did too. This does come from part of what he talked about previously, where they did not, Golden Guardians did not have really strong topside vision control, and it leads to plays like this. But I was happy to see TSM go for this play because, you know, Golden Guardians' composition actually outskills them.
Yeah, and there was more just vision control on the top side. There was none there, and it came pretty much right after that pickoff onto Ablaze Olive, which allowed them to stall the game long enough for this replay.
Yeah, this was probably the most, other than the top lane, this is the most proactive thing TSM did all game. Right before this, Huni went in and almost died and then came back out. But then he based, got the teleport in, and that was kind of the final nail in the coffin. After TSM clawed their way back into this game the entire time, they finally make this proactive play, get 2 picks, get the free Baron, and from there it was just kind of a, okay, all we have to have is 2 hands on the keyboard and we can win this game.
Yeah, I don't know whose call that was, but that kind of a play right there is very much the kind of a play that you would expect out of a team that has Huni, you know, as their starting top laner up there. The willingness in a late game situation to take the TP, bring the fight to the opponents, come away with the victory, and ultimately pick up the Baron. I think the one thing I'd like to just hit you all with real quick is kind of refreshing that conversation we were having at the top of the day that was teed up by overreactions. And understanding that we all agreed it was an overreaction to say that Team TSM's success right now can be attributed, or lack of success can be attributed to Bjergsen's coaching. You know, how do we feel about the way that this team has performed now 4 games in, where the expectation for an organization like TSM is that they will always be a winning team, and yet even within a singular game, be it a win or a loss, we see moments of brilliance, and then we see moments where we go, there's no way they're making out of the top half.
I think, at least for me, there's been a number of times where TSM has struggled during the regular season. You can talk about some of those years with Yellowstar in 2016 spring. I think 2018 spring was also a bit of a struggle as well, if I remember, with Mythy coming over. Like, there have been periods where they didn't look great, but they usually turn it around by the end of the split. And I think that's kind of the period that everyone's hoping for right now. And you do have some reason to believe that's possible. But it's important to remember, you know, it's 2 weeks in, but there was the whole lock-in tournament where you got to have a lot more data about this team. And you can see that by no stretch of the imagination are they where they want to be right now.
Yeah, eking their way to 2-2. We got one more game coming up before we close out the day. It's Dignitas taking on Immortals right after this.
Hey, I didn't order any pizza.
Jake from State Farm. After you saved me so much dough on insurance with that Parker promo, I devised a promo for you.
Here's the deal, Parker. State Farm offers everyone surprisingly great rates.
Yeah, right. Pepperoni pockets, an atomic brownie, cuckoo crusty.
There's no promo, it's just great rates.
And a cider ranch. You're the man.
When you want the real deal, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.